Have you ever felt like there's this huge gap between your ambitions and what you actually get done? Well, today we're going to reframe that feeling completely. What if I told you that procrastination isn't some deep character flaw? What if it's just physics? Let's get into it.
So, does this sound like you? You have these big dreams. You know you're smart. You know you're capable. You can see the life you want so clearly. But when it's actually time to do the work, you just don't. You feel stuck. And that little voice in your head starts whispering, maybe I'm just lazy.
And it's this awful, frustrating cycle, isn't it? You set a big goal, you fail to act on it, and then this heavy cloud of guilt just settles in. You know you're not living up to your potential, and that feeling just gets worse and worse over time.
I mean, look at this timeline. It's probably super familiar to a lot of us. You start the year in January, you're full of energy, ready to go. By March, though, procrastination starts to sneak back in. Then, by summertime, the guilt has turned into this weird kind of acceptance, like, well, I guess this is just who I am. And by December, you've completely bought into the label, I'm a lazy person. It's a predictable pattern, and it's not your fault.
So how in the world do we break out of this cycle for good? Well, the problem is that most of the advice you hear out there is just treating the symptoms. It's not getting to the real root cause.
We've all tried this stuff, right? Deleting Instagram, cleaning our entire workspace until it's perfect, trying to just white-knuckle it with willpower. And yeah, maybe it works for a day or two, but these are just Band-Aids. They don't actually solve the real problem, which is, why is it so incredibly hard to just start?
Okay, so this is the absolute core of it. The real reason you procrastinate has nothing to do with you being lazy. It's not a moral failing. It's a fundamental principle of physics. And it can be summed up in one powerful word: inertia. Seriously, understanding this one concept changes the entire game.
Now I know, this probably feels like a flashback to a high school science class, but hang with me, because this is so important. Newton's first law of motion basically says that things that aren't moving want to keep not moving. An object at rest stays at rest. And guess what? This law applies just as much to your to-do list as it does to a bowling ball.
So think about it. Every single task, no matter how big or small, needs some kind of initial push, an external force to get it going. That resistance you feel right before you start something, that I just don't want a feeling, that is inertia. It's the psychological weight of the task. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. We make the problem 1,000 times harder for ourselves because we frame our tasks like we're trying to push a giant boulder. The task is write my 5,000-word essay. The inertia on that is huge. Of course you don't want to start. But what if the task was just to write 50 words? See? That's not a boulder. That's a tiny little pebble. You could flick it with one finger. The inertia is practically zero.
Okay, so if the problem is simply inertia, then the solution is to make that first push, that external force, as tiny and as effortless as possible. So let's get into the practical toolkit. How do we actually do this?
It all boils down to two incredibly simple but seriously powerful strategies. Number one, reduce the stakes. And number two, use the 2-minute rule. That's it. This is your foolproof formula for starting anything.
So strategy 1, reduce the stakes. This just means you take that giant, scary task and you shrink it down to the most ridiculously small first step you can think of. So instead of go to the gym, it's put on your running shoes. Instead of clean the whole kitchen, it's put one single spoon in the dishwasher. The goal is to make starting so laughably easy that it requires zero willpower.
And then you combine that with your secret weapon, the 2-minute rule. The rule is simple. If you have a big task, just commit to working on it for only 2 minutes. That's it. You want to write that essay? Just open the document and type for 120 seconds. Is your room a total disaster? Okay, put on your favorite song and just clean for the duration of that one song. And here's the key. You give yourself full permission to stop when the 2 minutes are up.
So why on earth do these tiny little actions work so incredibly well? It's because they tap into the second half of Newton's law, the part we always forget about. And honestly, this is where the real magic happens.
Because once you've overcome that initial bit of inertia, something amazing kicks in. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. Once you actually start, you begin to build momentum. And all of a sudden, you look up and you've written 200 words, not just 50. Or you've accidentally cleaned the entire counter, not just put one spoon away. All because you tricked your brain into taking that first tiny step.
I love this analogy.
Getting started is like pushing a heavy ball up a very short but steep hill. It takes all your effort just for that first little shove. But the moment you get it to the crest of the hill, that point of inertia, it starts rolling downhill all by itself. Momentum completely takes over.
And the best part is, you can apply this to literally anything in your life. Don't want to go for a run? Just put on your shoes. Can't face that huge side project? Just write one line of code or one sentence. Need to have a difficult conversation? Just open your phone to send the first text. You just shrink the start, and you'll be amazed at how the rest just follows.
At the end of the day, it really all comes down to this simple, profound idea captured so perfectly by Martin Luther King Jr. You don't need to have the whole plan figured out. You don't need a massive surge of motivation. All you need to do is take that very first tiny step.
So I'm going to leave you with a challenge. Forget about the giant boulder for a minute. What is your 2-minute task today? What is the smallest possible pebble you can flick right now to get the ball rolling on something that actually matters to you? Find it, do it, and just watch what happens.